There's been a lot of talk about Canadian national team striker Jonathan David early this season. Too much for my liking. And new reports have come out, Sky Sport Italy, that Jonathan David and his entourage may be looking for an out. That Jonathan David has been struggling for time at Juventus, and perhaps a January move would suit the player best. Yikes. With clubs like Tottenham, Spurs, and Bayern Munich being mentioned as possible landing spots. Now, it is a report, and we all know what these transfer specialists are all about, but it's worthwhile getting into. What do we make of a report like this, Oliver Platt? Are you buying it? Are you connecting the dots and seeing a potential departure already from Juventus in Jonathan David's future?
I wouldn't be going to Spurs. I don't know if you watched them this weekend. Every week they are just tough to watch right now, even when they get results. Well, sometimes Spurs play nice football and lose a lot, which I kind of prefer, to be honest with you. But anyway, that would be a strange one for me. Bayern's a bit more interesting because you know, obviously Harry Kane is so well established there, but he has been playing a bit more as a number 10 sometimes this season, so that could be interesting.
I think it's role for Canada, by the way.
Yeah, no, a little combination maybe there. It's too early, I think, to really say that, you know, this is going to be the situation Jonathan David is in January. I think clubs will be keeping an eye on his situation because he's a very good player who's not playing a ton of football in recent weeks. And I think his representation would be wise to have some kind of pivot, some kind of backup plan if the situation is still bad in January, obviously going into a World Cup year. So I'm not saying that something like this is out of the question. I just think you've got to wait and see over the next 2 months because he's now playing under a new manager. And so that could change everything for better or for worse, right? And we don't really know yet how that's going to play out. You didn't play a ton, obviously, this weekend, just a few minutes off the bench. But I don't necessarily know that is as bad as a sign as it initially looks on the surface because they played Openda and Vlahovic, not quite as a front two. Openda was a bit more withdrawn. But if that's the way they're going to play, that is a better sign, I think, for Jonathan David's chances of playing regular minutes if they're going to get a couple of forward players in the team. So that doesn't necessarily bode too terribly for me. We just got to see over the next few weeks how it plays out in terms of what Spalletti thinks of the player and his level of involvement.
Can I also mention that Juventus is playing in the Champions League midweek as well, and they need a result based on the Champions League structure? I see that. I'm like, oh, okay, he's probably going to start in the Champions League midweek. Like,
mate, it's been, you know, it was 5 minutes this weekend, 13, I think, the week before that. Not a lot in the last Champions League game. I think there's some reason to be concerned, but we just, like I said, it's a bit of a wait and see under the new coach.
Yeah. That's the key word, new manager. Spalletti just took over on the weekend. That's like one match in.
Yes.
So he's coming in on the fly. Jordan, what do you make of all of this?
Spalletti could come in and love Jonathan David and feel like, look, this is a guy that I want to start more. Like, you just don't know. You have to wait and see. This is what the biggest thing that comes to mind when I think about Jonathan David. You know, when you go to school and you have the new, you're in a new class and the books are still fresh and your clothes are still relatively new. That's what it is with Jonathan David and Juventus. Like, it still feels like he just got there. He's still trying to get his feet wet. He's still trying to get himself sorted. And everyone else is like, oh, well, he's only scored one goal. And then a dozen games, like, oh, has he fallen off? Is this the right fit? Sometimes it takes some time to get things going. And I just personally want to see, obviously, how it works with Spalletti, but just see how it is up until the Christmas, December, maybe even January. Like, just let him find his feet, because that move from the French league and going to Serie A and the Italian league and a club like Juve, it's going to come with its challenges. But one thing we know for certain is that J. David has that quality. So I'm still in the camp of giving him some time. Like, I understand why people would be like, oh, it's not working out. Was this the best move? Because naturally, that's what you do, especially nowadays in 2025. Things have to happen instantly all the time. For me, I just think we have to take a deep breath, assess the situation, see what happens with him. And honestly, I think he'll just rise to the top because he's that much quality.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Juventus is doing. There's been other stories released since that Juventus have no interest in moving the player. And why would they? They just signed him to a 5-year contract. I don't like this story because the story is linking his entourage to the move Is that really where they're at already? Like, this is why this doesn't sit well with me. We've been talking about this for years. Jonathan David's contractual status and where that next landing spot would be. His representation had years to iron out, to figure out where the best spot for this player may be. They ended up landing on Juventus, which also, it was reported, came along with an over-the-top, a big-time financial outlay for agents' fees. Okay? Like, is this best for Jonathan David here? Because some people have made money off this deal. Jonathan David signing for a free. And then we're like, what, just a couple months in? And all of a sudden now there's louder than whispers. There's reports that his side of things potentially want to move on. You just signed a 5-year contract. You made a commitment. And again, I'll repeat this. You had years to plot out how this would work best for Jonathan David's career. Every other move leading to this one made sense and put the player, that's the focus here, the player in a position to succeed. That should have been the goal all along. Not just a big fat payday, but doing what was best for the player. And I'm like you, Jordan, I don't think we can judge here. There's been a managerial change at a club that's clearly in transition, and the player sure hasn't been playing enough right now, but that doesn't mean the case. It'll be the same thing 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, 2 years from now. I agree. Take a breath. There's no need for reports like this to come out right now. It's all unsettling. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, well, Jesse Marsch, in an interview with Christian Jack, made a comment like wink, wink, nudge, nudge about the way that he was being used at Juventus as well. And clearly Marsch is in conversations with his agents. So I really question what's going on and how that decision-making process is playing out and why a story like this would be coming out right now. Rant done. I'll move on. I don't know if Ollie or Jordan you want to add to this.
I don't know. Like, I think you have to be a little bit careful with it's a media report, right? You don't know where this has come from. It could be the representation. It could be just, I'm not saying it is, but it could be made up, right? Like based on a player who's not in a great situation right now. So I think
another reason why I don't like it.
You can criticize a little bit the way that Jonathan David is in the rumors a lot. It happened a lot when he was at Lille, but when you actually assess like the moves he has made and the way that his career has kind of been plotted out to this point, I don't think there's much to criticize. Like he went from Belgium to France, sensible move, did brilliantly at Lille.
Until now.
But do we think that Juventus was the wrong move? Is that what we're saying?
I don't think that.
I think there's a lot of people
if the reports are true. The caveat is if the reports are true.
So I don't know what we're actually criticizing in terms of the way he's been represented. Like his career to me to this point has kind of made sense in terms of the moves he's made.
Yes, but the biggest move of his career was getting the right landing spot now. When a player's in his prime, heading into a World Cup year, it's about more than dollars and cents. Yes, yeah. Of course. But according to these reports, if you're taking it at face value, and maybe I'm assuming that you were, Oliver, if you're saying that the report is rubbish, then that's one thing. But if you think this report is true, then it's clearly coming from one place.
Well, I don't know that that is clear, but I would also say that like they do have a responsibility as well. And whether it comes out in the media or not is another issue. I get that. They do have a responsibility to be prepared for the January transfer window. If he doesn't play over the next couple of months, are you just sitting still in January in a World Cup year?
No, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Jordan, anything else?
No, not really. No, Ollie has me thinking though now, and I'm just like, is there like I'm with you. 5 years, that's a big commitment, and you're thinking that he's obviously going to pay dividends down the stretch. But yeah, if this continues into Christmas, like, is Jonathan David's team not going to prepare for something or a move?
Are we assuming that's going to happen though? The players' class.
I'm not assuming.
We're not assuming. Like, you're just preparing. Preparing, not assuming.
Because Ollie's right. Like we're like, at some point it's going to turn the corner, and I said Christmas. Like you have to kind of evaluate. But do you wait until Christmas to see if your client is happy at his current club? Like Ollie's right. Like you probably have to have a trick up your sleeve or a solution to make him happy.
This is why I hate topics like this, honestly. And we have a production meeting and all of our we got to deal with this report. Like, look, I have no
That wasn't
problem
even me.
ignoring this, but if this is true, and the Jesse Marsh's comment sticks with me as well about like him mention the national team manager mentioning in an interview the state of play at Juventus as well. Maybe there's something more in this, and if there is, I don't like it. That's what I was trying to get to. Like, look, I agree. Every step of the way, Jonathan David is being put in a position to succeed, but you had to get this right. You had years to plan this out. What would it mean? Like the agents were paid a ton of money in order to get this right and for him to sign on the dotted line, making a long-term commitment for Juventus. And just because like the calendar's just turned to November. That's why every time this story has come about, and we've talked about it numerous times here on OneSoccer Direct on match night, like we cover Canadian players and the teams that they play for. I've been saying it all the time. No, let's not worry about this. It's not a big deal. That's why when a report like this comes out, I'm just like, it might be garbage. It's probably garbage.
It might be.
But
it might be.
It
The
might
thing is,
be.
Wheels, though, like if you think he had to get this move right, then Juventus was not the move, because that is always going to come with an element of risk when you join a club that big, that hasn't had a great few years, that has had a lot of managerial turnover, a lot of signings that haven't hit. You make that move to give the player an opportunity to succeed at one of the biggest clubs in the world, because that, I assume, is what Jonathan David wanted. But if you want the safe move that's going to definitely get him games and be a success, I don't think you join that kind of club right now. And that was the gamble they took.
But
right?
Understanding that, then don't you give it a little bit more time? This is the entire point I'm trying to make.
Of course. Maybe we're not that far.
There was just a managerial change. It's just, these stories drive me absolutely bonkers. Please get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think about this, because apparently people like talking about this stuff. So there we go. We'll continue to talk about it. Don't worry. Grumpy old man here. I'll settle down and get back into my place.